that now. All right, let's come on to our mats. And we'll sit in our comfortable cross-legged position here. Taking those small movements that allow us to sit most comfortably. And when we found just that right position, we can allow our eyes to close. Then we'll bring our awareness to our posture here. The hands can rest comfortably in the lap or maybe on the thighs. And we'll bring length to the spine. Allow the shoulders to soften down the back. The chin is slightly tucked, bringing length to the back of the neck. And you might imagine that the crown of the head is gently pulling us up. Notice if there are any areas where you're holding tension in the muscles of the face, in the hips, or the back. If you find that tension is hiding somewhere, simply let that tension go. And then we'll bring our awareness to our breath for the next few breaths. And we might bring Ujjayi to the breath, remembering that this involves bringing a slight constriction to the back of the throat, resulting in a sound that's a bit like the ocean wave. As you breathe in, you might imagine that the ocean wave is coming into shore. And as you breathe out, you might imagine that the wave is going back out to sea. And then you can allow your breath to return to its normal rate and rhythm. Just notice any physical sensations that you're experiencing as a result of having taken the Ujjayi breath. And we might set an intention for our practice this morning. Whether that intention is to be fully present for the next 30 minutes or so, or the intention might be to keep the connection between our minds and our body. Or maybe the intention is to show ourselves some gratitude, some compassion. And with that intention in mind, we can slowly open the eyes and we'll come into our tabletop position. So in our tabletop position, the shoulders are above the wrists and the hips are above the knees. And we can start out with some cats and some cows. So we're arching the back and we're letting the belly fall towards the ground here. Maybe we close our eyes as we take these initial movements. Sometimes that leads to us moving in ways that are a little more organic. You might notice some areas where you're feeling tightness. And if that's the case, you might visualize that you're sending the breath to those areas where you need it most. And also just bring yourself some kindness. Be patient with your body this morning as you're starting to move. We could take some circles with our hips. Maybe we first go in a clockwise direction. And then we can reverse our direction here. And then once we find that neutral position, we can let the toes tuck and the hips lift as we come up into our first downward facing dog. Maybe we pedal at the feet here. Maybe a nice bend in the knees. And with that bend in the knees, you might shorten your downward dog here. And again, deep bend here if that's needed. And take your right hand and place it to the outside of the left ankle. And you can peek underneath that left armpit. We're testing our balance here a bit as we're getting started. And then we'll return the right hand to the mat, and we'll take the left hand and bring it to the outside of the right ankle, and we're peeking underneath our right armpit. Breathing in and breathing out. We'll return that left hand back down to the mat. Let's stretch out our downward dog. So you can walk your hands a couple of paces forward. Let's come up onto our tippy toes here, and we'll send our heels off to the right, creating a stretch on the left side of the body. Breathing in and breathing out. And then we'll return to center, and this time we'll send the heels off to the left and create a nice stretch in the right side body. We'll return to center, and we'll slowly walk the feet up to meet the hands at the front of the mat. Finding ourselves here in a forward fold, and we can start with a ragdoll. So we're holding onto the elbows, letting the head hang heavy. It can be a bend in the knees. You might even allow the belly to rest on top of the thighs. You might sway from side to side if that feels good. And then you can take the hands and I bring them behind the back. You can either hold on to the elbows here or maybe clasp the hands together behind the small of the back. And maybe the hands float away from the body, creating a nice shoulder stretch. Breathing in and then letting the breath go. We'll unclasp the hands, and with a slight bend in the knees, we're going to slowly slinky roll to a standing position, inhaling the arms overhead, exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And let's bring the right hand down by the side. The left hand can be up towards the sky. We're going to take a side bend towards the right. So we're not collapsing into the right side body. But you might imagine with each inhale, we're growing a little taller, and with each exhale, we're able to bend just a little bit further. We'll come back to center, return the left arm alongside the body. The right hand comes up towards the sky, and we'll take a side bend in the other direction. Breathing in and breathing out. We'll return to center. Both hands will come up towards the sky, and then we'll turn into our forward fold. Inhaling into a halfway lift, exhaling into our forward fold. We'll take another sun salutation, inhaling arms to rise, exhaling hands to heart center, inhaling arms to rise, exhaling into that forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift, exhale into our forward fold. And then with deep enough bend in the knees to get our hands down to the mat, we're going to step our left foot back, step the right foot back so that we're in our high plank, drawing the belly in and up here, feeling the strength of our arms and our legs as they support us in the high plank. Just a couple more breaths here. And then we'll slowly lower down to the floor, allowing the tops of the feet to make contact with the mat. The hands are underneath the shoulders. And we can push up into our baby cobra. So not coming up too far, keeping that gaze down towards the floor. Shoulders are away from the ears, feeling the stretch in the lower back here. Breathing in and breathing out. We can lower back down, and then we'll simply push back up into our downward facing dog. In our downward dog, the right leg lifts. Let's open up the hips into our three-legged dog. The right hip is stacked on top of the left. And we can make some small circles here with our ankle. And then we'll step the right foot between the hands. The back heel comes down, and we'll lift up into our warrior one. Opening the chest towards the front of the room. Breathing into those areas where you might be feeling a little bit of tightness here. And on the next exhale, we'll simply bring the hands down to the mat. The right foot meets the left. We're in our high plank. Either we can go into our chaturanga, which involves going into a low plank and pushing into an upward facing dog, and then pushing back to our downward facing dog, or we can simply let the hips lift and go into our downward dog this way. The left leg lifts now. We're opening our hip, coming into our three-legged dog on the left-hand side. Left hip is stacked above the right. Small circles with the ankles here. And then we'll come into our warrior one on the left-hand side by placing the left foot between the hands. The back heel comes down and the arms lift up towards the sky. Making any minor adjustments that you might need to make here. Finding our balance. Opening the chest towards the front of the room. And then on the next exhale, the hands come down to the mat, left foot meets the right, and then we come into our downward dog, however you want to get there. This time, let's walk our hands back to meet our feet. So we're at the back of the mat now, and we're in another forward fold here. To come into our chair pose from the forward fold, we're going to keep a bend in the knees as the arms lift up towards the sky, and it's as if we're sitting on an imaginary stool that's been placed behind us. Notice if your shoulders are hunched up by your ears, bring them back down. We're opening our chest towards the front of the room. And then we bring the hands together at the center of the chest. We're going to come into our twist by placing the right elbow on the outside of the left knee. And we can either stay here or maybe the arms float apart. We'll come back to center, and then we'll simply take a twist to the other direction. If the arms floated apart on the other side, we'll do that here as well. Hands come back to the center of the chest, then we can inhale the hands above the head. We're back in our chair. Maybe somebody replaced our stool with one that's just a little bit lower. And then on the next exhale, we'll bring it back into our forward fold. And with a nice deep bend in the knees, we're going to walk the hands forward until we're in our downward dog again. Right leg lifts. We'll place the right foot between the hands for our runner's lunge. The hands can either be on top of blocks or some other prop here that allows you to keep that nice, long, straight back. Or if it's accessible for you, you can place your hands to the outside of the foot on tented fingers. And we can rock our weight forward and back here. Notice if there's a change in the stretch for you when you're shifting your weight forwards and back. And then when we come back to that neutral position in our runner's lunge. We're going to keep the left hand down. The right hand floats up into our twist. The right hand returns to the mat. The back heel returns down to the mat. And we're going to spin up into our warrior two. Making some small adjustments here as needed. Notice if your arms are even alongside the body, if the front knee is above the front ankle. Feel the strength of that back leg. And once you've got it, take that gaze and bring it over the front right hand. Breathing in and breathing out. And then we'll reverse our warrior two for just a breath and allow the hands to come down to the mat. Right foot meets the left. However you want to get there, we'll come into our downward facing dog. This time the left leg lifts. We'll place that left foot between the hands and we're in our runner's lunge on the left-hand side. And as we did on the other side, we'll shift our weight forwards and back. And then when we come into that neutral position again, we'll allow the right hand to stay down to the mat. The left hand floats up towards the sky. Left hand comes down to the mat, back heel comes down to the mat, and we spin up into our warrior two. Once again, noticing where your body is in space here, making any adjustments. The belly is drawing in and up. And then when you feel like you've got it, you bring your gaze over that left hand towards the front of the room. We'll reverse for just a breath, and then we'll windmill the hands down to the mat. Left foot meets the right. Let's bring the knees down so that they're match distance apart, and let's sink into our child's pose for a few breaths here. Noticing any sensations you're feeling from the last postures that we've been taking so far. Maybe you're feeling some benefit already. Imagine that your breath is allowing that benefit to circulate throughout the body. And then when you're ready, we'll come back up to our tabletop position here. We're going to take our right hand and point it forwards. Bring our left foot, bring it behind us, and either the left foot can stay down on the floor or maybe it floats up off the mat. Breathing in and breathing out here. You can return the hand and the knee down to the mat, and we'll take that same posture on the other side. So the left hand points towards the front of the room, the right foot comes behind us, maybe the right foot floats up off the ground. Feeling the strength of the left leg as it supports you, the right arm as it supports you, drawing the belly in and up here. And then on the next exhale, the hand and the knee return to the mat. Maybe we take a couple of cats and cows after having taken that balance. And then when we return to our neutral position, the right hand can float up towards the sky and we thread it underneath the left for our tabletop twist. Oh, and I'm getting a nice sun bath here. The sun's coming through the window on my face. Feels good. Getting that vitamin D. Maybe the eyes closed if that feels good. And then we'll return back to our tabletop, and this time we'll take a twist in the other direction. So now the left hand reaches up towards the sky, and we thread it underneath the right for our tabletop twist. We can come back up to our tabletop, and this time we'll walk the hands forward to come into our inchworm. So the hips should stay stacked above the knees. And then when the hands have come far enough in front of you, you can place the forehead on the mat or maybe the chin. And if it helps relieve the shoulders a bit, you can bring a bend to the elbow here. Breathing in and then letting the breath go. And then to come into our Sphinx posture, we'll shift our weight forwards, making some minor adjustments here. The shoulders are stacked above the elbows. The fingers are pointing forwards. We're opening the chest towards the front of the room, creating a nice gentle back bend here. Make sure the shoulders are not hunched up by the ears. And then we're going to lower down to the mat. Maybe you come down to one cheek as it rests on the mat. And we're going to come into one more back bend. You can either take the Sphinx again, or maybe you push up into your cobra by placing the hands underneath the shoulders. You can bring the feet max distance apart and push up until you feel that nice stretch in the back. Stop right there, opening the chest towards the front of the room. Or again, you can come back into your Sphinx. And then we'll come back down to the mat. We're going to push up into our tabletop, and from there, come into our seated position. So the right leg comes long. The left foot can be to the inside of that right leg, and we'll take a side bend over the right leg. So you almost feel as if the torso is twisting up towards the ceiling here. It's not about how far you can go into the fold over the leg. It's really more about the twist here. And then we'll return upright. Place the right hand to the left hand to the outside of the left hip. Lift the hips to come up into our fallen star position. Hips return to the mat, and we'll take a forward fold over our right leg. There can be a bend here, and we can simply walk our hands forward until we feel that really nice stretch and stop right there. Breathing into the stretch. Having the sense of just letting it all go on the exhale. We'll return upright. We can bring the feet together right outside of the hips for Baddha Konasana. Maybe the elbows press down on the thighs really gently, giving an additional stretch there. You can either stay upright or you can fold over your feet here. And then we'll allow the left leg to come long. The right foot comes to the inside of the left leg. And once again, we'll come into our side bend over that left leg. We'll place the right hand to the outside of the right hip. The hips lift, and we come into our fallen star. Hips return down to the mat, and we'll take a forward fold over our left leg. Notice where you're feeling the stretch here. Notice if you're feeling tightness. Send the breath to those areas. And then we'll return upright. We want to roll onto our backs on our mats here. Start by simply hugging the knees into the chest and giving yourself a nice lower back massage. And then we can place the right foot on the mat. The left ankle comes above the right knee. And we're going to come into our figure four. We'll take our hands and thread them through the space we've created. We'll clasp them together on the back of the right thigh. Maybe the left elbow gently pushes against the left thigh as we pull that right thigh towards our chest until we feel that stretch. You might even rock from side to side here in the figure 4. It's a really good hip opening stretch, which might feel good right now if you feel like you've been spending a lot of time in a chair. And then we'll allow the right foot to come down to the mat, and we'll simply take our figure 4 on the other side. So now the right ankle is above the left knee, and we can take our hands and clasp onto the back of the left thigh. And then we can gently pull the left thigh towards the body. We turn the left foot to the mat. Let's hug the right knee into the chest. The left leg comes long, and we'll send that right knee across the body. We'll come back to center, and we'll simply take a twist in the other direction by hugging the left knee into the chest and sending the left knee across the body. And now let's settle into our final posture of Shavasana, giving yourself the gift of being fully present for the next few moments, taking in all the benefits of your practice this morning, gently guiding your mind away from any thoughts or worries about the past or the future, simply being. Let the breath be the reminder to be fully present here right now. You might allow the breath to deepen here. And you might bring some small movements back into your body, moving your fingers and your toes. Maybe the head moves from side to side. And keeping the eyes closed, you can roll onto one side here. And then when you're ready, once again, with the eyes closed, you can push up into a seated position. And I invite you to bring back to mind the intention that you set at the beginning of your practice this morning. And maybe you set the resolve to carry that same intention through the rest of the day ahead. You might even dedicate the merits of your practice this morning to someone. That someone could be you. Then when you're ready, you can start to open your eyes and return to the room that you're in. So thank you for joining me for yoga this morning. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you again soon.